In a small village near Tashkent, the sun rose and set with a familiar rhythm. This rhythm was the heartbeat of a small, sturdy house. It was built not just of clay and wood, but of dreams and decades of shared silence. Here lived Karim Bobo and Halima Momo. They were a couple who had seen many seasons pass. Their hands, wrinkled and wise, had planted every flower in the garden. Their quiet laughter was etched into the very walls. They had no children of their own. Their love for each other, and for their home, was their entire world. This house was more than a shelter. It was their legacy, a testament to a life lived together in simple harmony. Karim Bobo would often sit on the porch, his gaze fixed on the distant mountains. He remembered laying each brick with his own hands. Halima Momo's presence filled every corner, from the aroma of freshly baked bread to the neatly arranged cushions. Their days were a gentle dance of shared routines. She would tend to her garden, and he would mend whatever needed fixing. They didn't need many words. A simple glance was enough to convey a lifetime of understanding. Their home was a sanctuary, a quiet island in a fast-changing world. It held their memories, their joys, and their unspoken sorrows. It was a witness to their unwavering bond. But life is unpredictable. A storm can gather even on the clearest day. One morning, a shadow fell upon their peaceful existence. An official-looking car, cold and unfamiliar, stopped before their gate. The world outside, a world of papers and debts they little understood, had come knocking. This was a world that did not care for memories or love. It cared only for numbers and rules. The arrival of these strangers felt like a violation, a cold wind blowing through the warmth of their home. The peace they had cherished for so long was about to be shattered. The problem was simple and cruel. A forgotten debt, a signature on a paper from long ago, had grown into a monster. Now this monster threatened to devour their home. The house, their entire world, was on the brink of being taken away. For Karim Bobo and Halima Momo, this was a fate worse than death. To lose their home was to lose their past, their present, and their future. It was to be uprooted from the very soil that held their souls. The threat was real. The clock was ticking. And they were all alone, or so they thought. Two men in sharp suits stepped out of the car. They did not smile. Their faces were as stern as the documents they held in their hands. They were representatives from the bank. They spoke in a language of finance and law, a language foreign to the elderly couple. Their words were polite, but their message was a hammer blow. The house must be vacated, one of them said. It now belongs to the bank due to outstanding debts. The words hung in the air, cold and heavy. Halima Momo's hand flew to her chest, her breath catching in her throat. Karim Bobo stood frozen, his eyes wide with disbelief. The bank officials showed them the papers. They were filled with numbers and legal terms that swam before the old man's eyes. He remembered taking a small loan years ago to fix the roof after a harsh winter. He thought he had paid it all back. But interest, penalties, and time had twisted that small sum into an insurmountable mountain of debt. The men were not unkind, but they were firm. They were just doing their job. They explained the process, the deadlines, the finality of it all. Each word was another nail in the coffin of their hopes. After the men left, a profound silence descended upon the house. It was a silence heavier than any they had ever known. The familiar ticking of the old clock on the wall sounded like a countdown to doom. Halima Momo sank onto a chair, her face pale. Tears streamed down her cheeks, silent and heartbreaking. Karim Bobo walked to the window and looked out at the garden his wife had so lovingly tended. The vibrant flowers seemed to mock him with their beauty. He felt a helplessness he had never experienced before. He had built this home to protect his wife, to give them a safe haven. Now, he was powerless to stop it from being taken away. That night, they did not eat. They did not speak. They simply sat together, holding hands in the darkness. Their home, once a source of comfort, now felt like a prison of sorrow. They had lived their lives with honesty and hard work. They had never harmed anyone. Why was this happening to them? They turned to the only solace they had left. With trembling hands and broken hearts, they raised their hands in prayer. They did not ask for wealth or long life. They asked for a miracle. They prayed for their home, the silent keeper of their love story, to be saved from the coming storm. The next morning arrived, painted in the gray colors of despair. But with the sunrise came an unexpected knock on the door. It was not the bank. Standing on their doorstep were a young woman and a young man, their faces etched with concern and determination. It was Malika and Jamshid. Years ago, they were two lonely orphans from the nearby children's home. Karim Bobo and Halima Momo, despite having little themselves, had always shown them kindness. They would invite them over for warm meals, mend their torn clothes, and offer them the affection they craved. They were the closest thing to parents the children had ever known. Malika and Jamshid had never forgotten that kindness. They had grown up, built their own lives, but always held the elderly couple in their hearts as their true family. Malika was now a successful designer, and Jamshid, a respected engineer. They had heard about the couple's plight through a neighbor. Without a second thought, they had rushed to their side. Seeing Halima Momo's tear-stained face, Malika embraced her tightly. "Momo John," she whispered, "we are here. You are not alone." Jamshid placed a reassuring hand on Karim Bobo's shoulder. "We will not let them take your home, Bobo," he said, his voice firm. For Karim Bobo and Halima Momo, it was as if the sun had broken through the darkest clouds. The arrival of these two was the miracle they had prayed for. They were not children of their blood, but they were children of their heart. The seeds of kindness they had planted so long ago had grown into a mighty tree, now offering them shelter in their time of need. The house, which had been filled with sadness just hours before, was suddenly filled with a new energy. It was the energy of hope, love, and the unbreakable bond of a chosen family. A wave of memories flooded back. They remembered little Jamshid, so serious and quiet, helping Karim Bobo fix a wobbly fence. They remembered Malika, with her bright eyes, learning to bake bread in Halima Momo's kitchen. These were not just memories, they were the foundation of their relationship. This was the proof that family is not defined by bloodlines, but by the threads of love and loyalty woven over time. The couple had given them a sense of belonging, and now, Malika and Jamshid were here to return that gift. The fight for the house was about to begin. The fight was not easy. The bank was a powerful institution, armed with lawyers and a system designed to win. But Malika and Jamshid were prepared. They immediately hired the best lawyer they could find, a sharp and compassionate man who was moved by the couple's story. The first step was to file an injunction, to stop the bank from seizing the property immediately. This bought them precious time. The lawyer pored over the old loan documents, searching for any mistake, any loophole, any sign of injustice that could be used in their defense. It was a race against time. The days that followed were filled with tension. There were meetings, legal preparations, and moments of doubt. The court proceedings were intimidating for Karim Bobo and Halima Momo. They had never been inside a courtroom before. The cold, formal environment was a world away from their warm, simple home. But they were not alone. Malika and Jamshid were by their side at every step, holding their hands, translating the complex legal language, and reminding them to stay strong. They were a united front, a small family army fighting for their fortress. The turning point came when their lawyer discovered a critical error in the bank's paperwork. The interest rates had been calculated incorrectly, and several clauses in the original contract were legally questionable, they taking advantage of the couple's lack of financial literacy. In court, the lawyer presented this evidence with powerful conviction. He painted a picture not of defaulting debtors, but of two vulnerable elders who were victims of a predatory system. He spoke of the house not as a property asset, but as a sanctuary of love and a lifetime of hard work. The judge listened intently, his expression thoughtful. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. The courtroom was silent. Karim Bobo held his wife's hands so tightly, his knuckles were white. When the judge announced his decision in their favor, a collective gasp of relief filled the room. The bank's claim was dismissed. The house was safe. Tears of joy streamed down Halima Momo's face as she hugged Malika and Jamshid. They had won. It was a victory not just against a bank, but a victory for justice, for loyalty, and for the unwavering power of a family united. The house, their beloved home, was theirs to keep. The news of their victory spread through the village like wildfire. Their home once again became a place of celebration. Neighbors came with congratulations, bringing sweets and good wishes. The house seemed to breathe again, its walls filled with laughter and joy. Karim Bobo and Halima Momo looked at Malika and Jamshid with a love that words could not express. These two were their saviors, their true children, sent by God in their hour of greatest need. The ordeal had been terrible, but it had brought them an invaluable gift, the certainty that they were deeply loved. A few days later, there was another knock on the door. It was one of the bank officials who had delivered the initial notice. But this time, he was alone, and he was not wearing a suit. His face was filled with shame and regret. He explained that he had been following the case and that his conscience had been bothering him. He had been just a messenger, but he felt complicit in the cruelty of the system. He had since resigned from his job at the bank. He came to ask for their forgiveness. He could not bear the weight of the sadness he had caused. Karim Bobo and Halima Momo looked at the man. They saw not an enemy, but another human being caught in a difficult situation. They had just fought a battle against heartlessness, and they refused to let it poison their own hearts. Halima Momo invited the man inside and offered him a cup of tea. "We forgive you, son," Karim Bobo said, his voice gentle. "Anger is a heavy burden to carry. We choose peace." In that moment, the victory became complete. It wasn't just about saving a house, it was about preserving their humanity. Forgiveness was the final, most powerful act. The story of Karim Bobo and Halima Momo became a legend in their village. Their home stood as a powerful symbol. It was a symbol of hope, a reminder that kindness is an investment that always pays dividends. It showed that family is forged in the heart, not in blood. The love they had given freely to two lonely children had returned to them tenfold, saving everything they held dear. Their tale served as a timeless lesson. In the grand story of life, it is not money or power that wins in the end. It is always mehr, love, Sadoqat, loyalty, and the simple, profound goodness of the human spirit.